What's going on? Welcome back to the Roto Heat Fantasy Inferno, your weekly redraft live stream. My name is Cody Woodman. I'm the host as always. Join with me, as always, the late again, Shane Barrett over here. How you doing, Shane?
I'm great. Sorry I was late. I was at church talking about our men's weekend coming up for the youth, so was helping plan that. So I apologize for my lateness, but it was for the greater good.
It's all
That's
good.
like one of three things that, okay, I can't really say anything about.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Plus, I'm 2 hours behind you guys, so I got all the time in the world. Join with us today. We got a very special guest. We got G-Man Jay, Jay from Front Yard Fantasy. Tell the people who you are and what you are all about.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. First time on here. I love the Roto Heat guys. Think very highly of all of you, even Shane. I am
You're the reason
Jay.
I'm here.
Yeah, I know I am. I'm Jay Felicio, G-Man Jay on Twitter. I'm part of the team over at Front Yard Fantasy, the content manager over there. There's a lot of overlap. We work very closely with the Roto Heat guys. Like I said, we love them. We are more of not necessarily just fantasy information. We like to blend the fun of games and fantasy together. So we have our game show. We've got morning show on the Better Sports Network, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. We got a lot of stuff going on. The two best ways you can connect with us, check out our YouTube page, Front Yard Fantasy, and then we also have a pretty awesome Discord. It basically is taking an extension of our chat, putting it in our Discord. You know, I know Roto Heat has a very active Discord as well. We're having a lot of fun in there as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the plug for our Discord, but yeah, the fantasy shows are always a good time. You guys got Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, all that kind of stuff. I know a few Roto Heat guys have come on the show and taken down a W in a week or two. I think Rick and Craig both got wins when they were on. So representing the Roto Heat team with Front Yard Fantasy. So it's always good to see.
Absolutely.
Let's get into it. Obviously, it's by Mageddon. There's week 9. We got 6 teams on bye, and definitely some competitive teams and some players that have been probably difference makers on your rosters heading into pushing towards the a playoff push, hopefully for most people, or you're scrambling to pick up some wins, and if you don't win now, it's pretty much game over for you. So let's see if we can help you out. We're gonna pitch some deep sleepers. Most of these guys, I think we got a few that are right around 30, 40, maybe up to 50% in I only play on ESPN and Sleeper. And I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't figure out how to find the ownership on Sleeper. So I only saw the ESPN ownership. But these guys should be available. They should be, guys that you can pick up and start as a streaming option for this week with all these guys on buys. And hopefully get you, 10 to 15 points. That's all you're really looking for with some of these guys. So let's get right into it. We got one quarterback. The quarterbacks that are on bye this week, we got Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, and Dak Prescott. Two of those guys are probably, your premier type of players, Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson, that you would have drafted as your QB1, your starting quarterback. Hopefully you're not relying on those guys, but, maybe Dak, but hopefully you're not relying on Russell Wilson anymore.
I have a whole lot of Russell Wilson this year. So unfortunately, I am in a lot of places. I was very high on him.
I got away from that one. I dodged a bullet on that one personally. So
I also have a couple,
especially because I'm a huge Russell Wilson believer and kind of defender too. And I don't know how I dodged that bullet. Actually, I do. And I spoke on this the other week. I didn't love how high the wide receivers were going, and that was kind of what pushed me down on Russell Wilson, especially in best ball. But so we got Taylor Heinecke of the Washington Commanders. I'll kick this one off, I guess. He's playing the Vikings. They're ranked 23rd against quarterbacks in Washington, so it's a home game. Kirk Cousins has struggled on the road a little bit. I think he's 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, whereas at home he's 7 TDs, 1 interception, I believe. So it's not going to be a blowout. It should be a competitive game. And if you're looking at this defense, the Minnesota defense, I think that 23rd ranking might be a little kind of a higher mark than it should be for this team. if you look at week 1, Aaron Rodgers, that was his first game. He doesn't practice a lot. So, and obviously they've had some struggles. Aaron Rodgers in week 1, Jalen Hurts in week 2, he lit them up as he does. So that's encouraging. Plus 2 rushing touchdowns, which I'll touch on in a second. Jared Goff in week 3, and outside of those 2 4-touchdown games for Jared Goff, he's been pretty pedestrian. Andy Dalton in his first start in London in week 4, Justin Fields in week 5, who's still kind of figuring it out, but he also had, I believe, he didn't have a rushing touchdown, but he did have some good rushing yards. Teddy Bridgewater in week 6, and he still threw 2 touchdowns. And then after their bye, Kyler Murray, 3 touchdown passes. So they've gone, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. Their 2 highest touchdown passing totals have come in the past 2 games. And so I think that they could definitely be taken advantage of, especially on the road. He's got 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing, and 2 wins, 2 starts. I think Taylor Heinecke is a guy you could pick up and plug in, and especially if he gets you a rushing touchdown. So, Jay, what do you think about Taylor Heinecke?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think that he's going to be the starter for the rest of the season. And, while he's not highly acclaimed around the league, he's been a serviceable start, especially in the right matchups. I think in Superflex leagues, you can plug him in as your QB2 pretty comfortably. And I think if you do have one of these guys, honestly, the way Daniel Jones played last week, the way that some of the other guys have been playing, Dak Prescott's really the only one that I think you would 100% start over Taylor Heinecke every single week. I mean, Russell Wilson, the way he's looked, if it's a bad matchup, he's still banged up. I could easily see starting Taylor Heinecke over him. The rest of the guys, Brissett, who is it, Daniel Jones, a couple of the other ones. Yeah, I love it. I think he's rightfully, thank God somebody is targeting Scary Terry. And he's doing all this without Jahan Dotson being on the field. So I'm with you. I love the start. I think that you could do much worse than Taylor Heinecke, especially in this matchup.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with the rest of the season. That's a pretty good call. I'm not going to say you're wrong, that's for sure. But there's no doubt in the world that they don't sit him for the next, 4 games, whatever it is. They're going to turn that second-round pick into a third-round pick.
Exactly.
100%. They are not going to play.
That, 2 weeks ago, right?
A couple weeks ago, yeah. There's no chance in the world they forfeit that second-round pick when they could give a third. So you're going to get Taylor Heinecke until that point where Carson Wentz is not playing 70% of the snaps for Washington. It was a conditional pick. That's what I'm talking about, if you don't know. So yeah, they're definitely going to start. They're definitely going to start Taylor Heinecke up until that point. Shane, what do you think about Taylor Heinecke?
I really don't have anything more to add other than I'm just excited for him to get Jahan Dotson back, hopefully too, because I think that will.
Not practicing this week yet, so
I know
he'll get him eventually. But
I just think kind of what Jay was saying, like he's targeting Scary Terry, which Wentz wasn't doing, and I have my own thoughts on Wentz, and I think we disagree on that there, Cody. But I think Heinecke has just been better from a fantasy perspective the last couple of games, and if you get people more weapons, they've got the ability to produce more. It's this weird concept. So.
Yeah,
that's all.
I think with the running backs that helps a lot too.
Yeah,
with the loss of Jahan Dotson.
Because we've definitely seen Gibson kind of explode over, and explodes maybe a little extreme, but he's produced a lot higher than I thought he would this year, and it's been with Heinecke and not with Wentz.
Yeah, he certainly looked good. That's for sure. So yeah, that's the only quarterback we have on our list. I'm sure there's some other guys out there that you can start, but this was just a really good matchup, I thought, against Minnesota at home. And I think Minnesota is better than, even their, 23rd. That's a juicy matchup regardless, but I think it could be even better than that. So we'll move on to some running backs. There's a couple of guys I just wanted to touch on, but their ownership might be a little too high, especially after waivers this morning. Tyler Algier was one of the guys I had on tap, but I think his ownership is going to be too high. If he is available, absolutely go get Tyler Algier and start him. Khalil Herbert as well. He's another guy that, in a bye week, he was 47% on ESPN. I thought that should have been higher regardless. But, I'm picking him up and starting him. I don't care if he's a backup. He's still going to, he averages, I think it's, 10.1 or something touches per game. I can't remember what it was. No, it was more than that. But either way, he's going to get you 10 to 15 touches, and I don't care that he's the backup. So that's a guy that I'm starting as well. I'm not sure how high his ownership got to, so I didn't want to dig deep into him. And then Jeff Wilson was another guy traded to Miami. So he obviously fits the system, knows the system with Mike McDaniel. So he's another guy. Again, his ownership was a little bit too high. That's not what this show's all about. We're going to dig deep. So
I love the Jeff Wilson call. I just wanted to throw that in there. I think that he's somebody that could sneakily, you hear the term league winner thrown around all the time, but if Mostert goes down and the production,
which is pretty likely,
right? I don't want to project injuries for anybody,
in
especially
the range of outcomes.
Right. It's right. I mean, he literally, the workload he could get in this backfield, the way that this offense looks, Jeff Wilson could be a true league winner.
Plus, they're playing 29th ranked Chicago against running backs.
Chicago just traded away Roquan Smith.
Yeah, so they could get right there with Houston, but also, just piggybacking a little off what you're saying there, Jay, as well. Jeff Wilson is 6 foot 210 versus Mostert 5'8", 190. He's gonna walk into getting goal line work, and I think he's gonna get more usage than obviously just that, but at a minimum, he's going to walk into the goal line work starting this week, in my opinion. I don't think, knowing the system, knowing the coach, knowing the scheme, I think that's pretty much a given. So we'll throw it over to you, Jay, for our first running back. We got Dion Jackson of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I think he's somebody that if you're in a pinch, even if JT plays this week, that you could start at flex. They traded Nyheim Hines to the Buffalo Bills. But when he got the work earlier this year, when they were both out, he looked phenomenal. And he's somebody, too, that I think he's a must-have handcuff, even though, this offense isn't anything to write home about. As we know in fantasy, volume is king, and JT is banged up. These high ankle sprains, like my guy Joey, who's in the chat, has said when Jonathan Taylor got hurt a couple weeks ago, these high ankle sprains don't go away. They linger until, hopefully it's not anything that would cause him to have to get the scissor and go under the knife. But I think that Dion Jackson is somebody who could potentially have standalone value while JT is there and, could jump into the RB2 status if JT has to miss a few games.
Yeah, we talked about this a few times, Shane. Well, yeah. I pissed and moaned about it a bunch because, we just were never sure about what was going on with JT. Like when he got hurt, there was talks of him being out for 8 weeks, maybe the entire season. It was just the range of his injury was insane. And then he comes back potentially a little early, retweaks it this past game.
And I think he tweaked it at practice today is what I saw too.
I don't think he practiced at all today, actually.
Okay.
From what I heard.
Okay, then I read the notification wrong. Sorry.
Shane, what are your thoughts on Dion Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna just echo what Jay said. Like, this makes too much sense. If he is available in your league, you need to go get him, especially this week, with Buymageddon. And probably, let me verify something super, super fast.
Question while you're doing that to both of you guys: does Zach Moss concern you?
No.
Just a guy.
I don't disagree. But I don't disagree. But if JT's not playing, just a guy might get 20 carries.
No, because
are you going to tell me Dion Jackson is not just a guy? That's all I'm saying.
That's a fair point. I think he's a better version of a Jag. Like if we're taking a scale of Jag,
maybe he's not.
Zach Moss is like a 2, and Dion Jackson is like a 8.
He's at least the unknown. We've seen what Zach Moss is. We know he's just another guy. He's fine. He's somebody you could plug in if you want to get 3.5 yards of carry and not much else. But we did see Dion Jackson in limited action, and he looked good. I completely agree with you. We don't know if he's.
I'm not saying I would rather have Zach Moss. I just want to throw that in there.
Wanted to be devil's advocate.
No, I think that's a really good point.
And I think Dion Jackson is the much better pass catcher than Zach Moss. He showed it when he did get that bell cow action. So,
and one other thing too, you do know where he played college ball, right?
I don't.
In North Carolina
for Duke. That's right.
Blue Devils.
That's right. He did.
I have to call out any football players that we have because there's not much to cheer about for Duke football.
There's like 2, because you're a basketball school. My other point that I wanted to confirm was that Dion Jackson, even if JT's injury, like we've talked about, JT's injury could be lingering. The next Buymageddon that's coming up is, I think, week 11.
13.
Yeah. Sorry, I just have a team that I think I'm gonna have to replace my entire bench because I have all week 11 buys. Dion Jackson may be a good fill in there. I think he's just gonna be a good bye week fill in for the next 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, you could be onto something there. I'm all right with Dion Jackson. Absolutely, that's got to be pretty deep for everybody. I'm gonna throw it not as deep as it's gonna get. But this is a guy that I think is gonna show up this week in the box score simply because there's no real stats I have to throw into this. It's simply because I think this is going to be a blowout.
Sometimes you just got to go with your gut. I get it.
Well, we got Andy Reid off of a bye, which is always scary. He's like almost undefeated. Derrick Henry can't just take on this defense and prop up this offense. 30. There's no way they're going to be able to give him 30 carries. It's just not going to happen as that's happened in the past 2 weeks. It's just not going to be able to happen against Kansas City. So I think it's going to be a bit of a blowout. And if you look throughout the season for Isaiah Pacheco and the Chiefs, he's had 10 plus carries on average every time they score 40 points, and it's a blowout. So what was it, week 1? And then last week, and I can't remember the games. I should have wrote those down, but I think it was 8, 11, and 12 carries in the blowouts, and he's at double-digit, fantasy points. So if that happens, if it is a blowout, I think Pacheco's going to get a lot of run, and he's a guy that if he gets into the end zone, there you go. You just earned yourself a flex start. So he's a guy that I think is going to be, worth plugging in simply because I think it's going to be a blowout. Shane, what do you think about Pacheco for this week's matchup?
I'm going to give this a thumbs down, but that's because I'm a Clyde Edwards-Helaire truther.
Can confirm.
They can both get their points is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And especially, I will agree with you for this week. Because again, the whole theme of the show is it's Buymageddon. You're having to find players to fill in your roster. I think Pacheco is a perfect person for this, to be completely honest.
Yeah, this isn't rest of season talk. It's 1 week.
Yeah.
So there you go. What do you think? Jay?
I'm kind of in the middle of both you guys. While I'm not as high as him on Pacheco as you are, I feel like it's one of those situations where you could do a lot worse. It feels like this whole offseason, there was the Pacheco Appreciation Society all over Twitter that everybody had just crowned him as the next guy. And, you've got CEH, you got Jerick McKinnon. That's just in the running backs. You've got Kadarius Toney now added to the team, who I do think is going to be used somewhat out of the backfield. I'm excited for Toney, even though he's not on the Giants anymore, what Andy Reid's going to do with him. But you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got MVS, you got Kelsey. There are so many other options. Even the only way that you're going to get a really big game, not the only way, but the most likely way you're going to get that big game is, like you said, which is definitely within the realm of possibilities of that big blowout. What if Tennessee, controls the game, runs the ball with Derrick Henry, and it slows down? Then if he's only getting 10 something touches and it's not that blowout, I don't think that's the case. I think you're right. I do think that Kansas City's going to roll all over him, but stranger things have happened. So I feel like you're taking a little bit of a risk with Pacheco. It's definitely a high upside play, but I feel like there's also the really low floor as well.
No, definitely. All these guys are you're taking on a ton of risk, right? So, but I think that if he gets 10 to 12 carries, that's actually what I'm looking for out of Pacheco, because the floor is like 3.
Right.
And that's where it's going to kill you. So, I'm not expecting him to throw up, and realistically, pretty much none of these guys are going to throw up 20 plus points. Maybe you stumble into one, maybe you don't, but I'm looking for, 12 fantasy points is what I'm looking for. And I think Pacheco can potentially do that. But on the other side of this game, I'm looking at, and again, going off of the potential blowout in Arrowhead, Andy Reid off a bye, DonTrell Hilliard, he looks to be all the way back as far as, the pass catching back out of the backfield. And like I said, I do not think they're going to be able to run the ball 30 times with Derrick Henry. They're going to try, to keep that Kansas City offense off the field. But at the end of the day, it's in Arrowhead, off a bye. They're just not going to be able to keep up. It's going to come down to they're going to have to throw the ball at some point. And DonTrell Hilliard is, I could see a week 1 type of a game out of him. But Shane, what do you think about DonTrell?
This is a great call. And I think it's a great call rest of the season too, because we've seen a little bit of wear and tear from Derrick Henry that we haven't previously seen. And the other thing is, like, he's had decent, like, he's their pass catching back, and he's had decent flex value, I think, for most of the season, other than I think like last week, because they were just running Derrick Henry down their throats. So I think Hilliard is a great call for this week, especially, and for rest of season, because if they do get into a shootout, it's going to be Hilliard that's coming out of the backfield for pass catching. Now, I think you could run Derrick Henry as a pass catching back, because who's going to want to try and stop Derrick Henry catching the ball and then picking up steam? Not me. But that's another point for another day.
Yeah. Jay, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I pretty much completely agree with everything that Shane said. With Derrick Henry, it's all about the boom with him. But he's getting older. He's getting a lot of touches. He's slowing down a little bit. And, I know people freak out when you say that. Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry, but running backs tend to fall off the cliff, and I'm not saying that's happening with Derrick Henry, but I could see them pulling back a little bit on the workload. DonTrell Hilliard has looked explosive when he's gotten the touches. This offense really doesn't have that many weapons, so I like it. I really like that call a lot.
Yeah, I think he could have that week 1 type of a game and be more than a flex for you, but we'll see on that. Jay, I'll throw it to you. We got running back Rachaad White from the Buccaneers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Rachaad White as not only a play this week, but long term. Rookie running backs especially tend to get going as the season goes along. And you like the Rachaad White call?
No, I like what you're saying right now.
Oh yeah, the Rachaad. I mean, I think he's going to carve out the pass catching role in this backfield already. They've got to do something different. This offense just isn't clicking like it has been. Tom Brady, maybe Father Time is finally catching up with him. Maybe it's that, maybe it's his personal life, but they're going to have to do something different. And I think getting Rachaad White, who's a very capable pass catcher, out of the backfield, Lenny's been dinged up here or there. I think giving Rachaad White some work, I think he's another guy in the vein of the ones that we've talked about, the backup, the handcuffs that, especially in Bipocalypse, can have some standalone value that if the guy in front of them were to go down, would get a whole lot of production.
Yeah, Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to echo again what Jay said about rookie running backs, and I think Rachaad White fits into this mold perfectly. Typically, we see them in the second half of the season really expand upon their duties within the offenses that they're in, and get better from a fantasy production standpoint as well. We've already kind of gotten lucky a little bit with seeing like Breece Hall before the injury kind of blowing up. Kenneth Walker.
That one hurts. I was so in on Breece Hall. I had him everywhere.
Kenneth Walker. I'm going to throw Travis Etienne in there because he's basically a rookie. Different guys like that have already had good beginning of the seasons, but then there's guys like Rachaad White, James Cook. We'll throw Pacheco in there because he's a rookie too.
I was gonna say, like, these are things that we don't want to say about Isaiah Pacheco though.
So that we could see some production out of these guys second half, because that's traditionally what we've seen. So
yeah. I'm not a big Rachaad White truther. I'm not. I never have been, and I think this is the guy that the Twitterverse really propped up the dynasty players. This is a redraft show, and unless something happens to Lenny, which it could, I don't see him being rest of season. I think as a bye week replacement this week, if you're looking for 8 to 12 points, I think Rachaad White's a guy you can definitely lean on, and I think long term. Yeah, definitely. I'm on Rachaad White, but I did not get on the train in the preseason on Rachaad White personally, but he has kind of been better than I thought. I was crapping on him like he was not even going to be this good. So I guess we'll take it from there. Shane, I'll kick Samaje Perine to you.
Yeah, cool. So Samaje Perine is someone who I think has had very, very low end flex value, especially in deeper leagues. Like I'm in a 14-team league where I'm having to start him as a flex this week. But my ultimate motivation is actually similar probably to what Rachaad White was on there for. We've seen Joe Mixon have some injuries the last couple of years. So it's within that realm of possibility that Mixon gets banged up, especially with Jamar Chase out. They're going to have to rely on him more, I think. So that should open the door, even without injury. I think that should open the door more for Perine to get you a little bit more of kind of flex value, especially if you're hurting like at running back and need a bye week replacement. I think he's someone that you can go out and get this week. Throw in, probably get somewhere in 6 to 8 points. I know it's not sexy, but it almost feels like a guarantee that that's about what he's going to get. And then you can look for ceiling in other positions.
Yeah, I think this is a deep type of a guy. Probably, to be honest, I'd rather have every other guy than Perine here, but he's certainly worth mentioning. And if it is another, blowout, because I think this is going to be a get right game for my Bengals at home. They're pretty salty. I'll tell you that. I was pretty salty watching that game. So, again, much to the DonTrell Hilliard, Isaiah Pacheco vein, we could see Perine get a little more run if it is a bit of a blowout. So, Jay, you have any thoughts on Perine there?
Yeah, honestly, he's not somebody I'm really interested in starting. I think he's a fine bench stash in case Joe Mixon were to get hurt. But Joe Mixon, he's one of my favorite running backs in the entire NFL. I think his talent is limitless. But, as we've seen, his yards per carry hasn't been that great this year. This offensive line hasn't gelled like we had hoped. And Joe Mixon is getting more work in the passing game than he has gotten in previous years. So Perine, unless, if he were the one to get the touches in the backfield, the way that this offensive line has looked, honestly, I'd look to swerve another direction. I'm not really interested, outside of desperation, needing a warm body. I think he's okay. But I think he's more of a volume-based guy than anything.
I'll just say, as a Bengals fan, at some point, people are going to have to realize that Joe Mixon's just not as good as people think. He's not. He does not run the ball the way he should. He needs to make better decisions as a running back.
One cut that he missed this past week that should have been a touchdown.
At some point, we can't just keep blaming the offensive line. That's what everybody goes to, is the offensive line has been no good, blah, blah, blah. At some point, Joe Mixon's just not as good as people think. Not that he's not a good quality NFL running back, because he absolutely is. And he is a better pass catcher this year than he has been in years past. I think he has more targets right now tied right now than he did all of last season, which is certainly fantasy value there. But as far as just a running back, he's not as good, in my opinion, as people think. And I've been saying that since his second season in the NFL, because I watch a lot of Bengals game, and he's really, really frustrating to watch run the football, in my opinion. But I like the big bruisers like, Derrick Henry and Ramondre and AJ Dillon and guys like that. But anyways, let's move on to the cover boy. We got Terrace Marshall Jr. This is a guy that I was super, super high on as a rookie. Ate a lot of crow on that one. Second year, he's looking a little bit better. The biggest reason I'm on him, his snap share has increased every week in the past 4 weeks. And it's, peaked at 93% last week, which was 3 less snaps than DJ Moore, who played, not every single snap, but pretty much. He's coming off 9 targets, 4 catches, 87 yards, former second-round pick at LSU. I just think he still can be a guy. And if he's getting that target share, and I think it is going to be a Bengals get-right game. So I think he could slide in there and get you double-digit points. I wouldn't expect anything crazy, but, if he gets in the end zone with the same stat line, you got yourself 15, 16, 18 points, something like that. And I think that's more than okay. Jay, what are your thoughts on Terrace Marshall?
He's somebody I'm more interested in Dynasty. I know this is a redraft show. I love the story of PJ Walker, the way he's been playing. That bomb that he threw to DJ Moore last week was just phenomenal.
Beautiful.
as we call them on the morning show, the Peach to Deej connection. So we've trademarked that. You guys can use it though. We like you. I just think that I do think Terrace Marshall is somebody who can have a successful NFL career. Right now with this offense, they want to run the ball. And I think that the only wide receiver I'm really interested in is DJ Moore. You know, the PJ Walker story is nice, but how long is he really gonna, support multiple pass catching options in this offense? Chuba also wasn't available this week. He could be back again, and he's a pass catcher. I could see him taking some of those targets away as well. So he'd be more of a desperation play for me. I do think that Dynasty, I think he's somebody that's worth acquiring, especially if they're finally able to get a half-decent quarterback in North Carolina. Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback. Sorry, Shane. I just had to throw that in there for you. But
I've been telling him that all year, so it's all good. I've been telling him that all year.
I've heard it for literally the last year and a half.
So he's not part of the elite. I'm sorry.
Shane, what are your thoughts on Terrace Marshall?
I think Terrace Marshall will be fine for you this week. I do think that game script could lend itself to him having some more potential than what Jay's potentially thinking, just because if Carolina gets behind, they're not going to be able to run the ball like they want to stay in the game. And so they're going to have to throw to somebody other than DJ Moore, even though I love DJ Moore. They're going to have
the Bengals secondary is pretty banged up. Uzier and
just got hurt, right?
And oh my goodness. Another guy.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Two starting corners might not play this week. I can't remember the other. Oh man, drawing a blank here, but keep going.
But so I think Marshall, I think he's kind of a low floor, high ceiling play from a flex standpoint.
I dig that. We're gonna try to blow through some of these, get to the start of the week, sit of the week. Devin Duvernay, I think he's definitely a guy. Rashad Bateman's out. We saw him as the number one pass catcher in this offense last week. So I think that's an easy start. 25th ranked New Orleans Saints against wide receivers. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I completely agree. With Bateman out for multiple weeks, I think Duvernay is more of a back-end wide receiver too, who, could jump into that high-end status if he's able to catch a touchdown. But right now, I definitely think he's pretty much an every week start as long as Bateman's out.
Yeah, Shane, what do you think?
I was all in on Bateman in the offseason thanks to Andy Singleton. Obviously, he's a deeper league kind of person, kind of player that you want, but I've got him in a bunch of leagues. And with Bateman out, Andrews hurt, Dobbins hurt, I really, really like Duvernay. Plus, we've seen him be used a little bit creatively as well. So I love Duvernay.
Yeah, he's definitely probably the number one priority here, I would say, on this entire list as far as a flex start. But another guy I like, there's two guys that are going to play this week because looks like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen probably will not be playing this week. So Josh Palmer steps in. He practiced in full after concussion and missed a game and a bye week. So I think Josh Palmer will 100% be active. Shane, what are your thoughts on Josh Palmer?
If Keenan Allen Mike Williams, I'm pretty confident.
Mike Williams is out for multiple weeks. He's definitely not playing.
Jay is hurting there for Mark.
Keenan didn't practice today.
Keenan did not practice.
Yeah. Okay. And he actually, I read before I came on that he actually re-aggravated his injury before the bye week, that last game.
It sounds like he's not playing.
Yeah, and he said he's not playing again until he's 100%. Those were his exact words.
Yeah. So. It is wheels up then for Josh Palmer.
Yeah, so much in the same regard as Josh Palmer. We got DeAndre Carter. I think he's the other starter there. He's looked good all season. And the Atlanta Falcons are 32nd ranked against wide receivers. So I think you could take both of these guys, fire them into your lineup, and 10 to 15 points at least. One of them might go off and get you, 20 to 25 potentially. You if you have your choice, you might get it wrong, but do what you can. I'd probably lean Josh Palmer. Because the Falcons are weak against slot receivers, which is probably what Josh Palmer will be doing. Maybe Michael Bandy. We'll see, but there you go. We're kicking to Trey Burks. Jay, what are your thoughts on Treylon Burks?
Yeah, I think he's somebody that you should be looking to stash now. The way to be successful on the waiver wire is to make the moves before they become popular pickups. And Treylon Burks is working his way back from injury. Granted, there has not been that much to get excited about with the Tennessee passing game, but I think Treylon Burks is the type of guy that could get force-fed the ball. Everybody loves Bobby Trees, but it just, the injuries have just piled up over the years, and he's just not the player that he once was. I'm excited to see Treylon Burks when he comes back, what he's able to do. And this is if you've got room on the end of your bench stash, a guy who could be a difference maker down the stretch if he's able to get some volume.
Is he playing this week?
I don't believe so. No, this is more of a bench stash for me.
Okay, yeah, I definitely would stash Trey Burks as well.
I looked. He was only rostered on 32% of teams in Yahoo League. That surprised me.
I think it's that Tennessee offense you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty poo-poo, so it's pretty hard to trust any of those wide receivers, to be honest. But yeah, Trey Burks was still my number one wide receiver coming into the NFL draft. I may be wrong on that one, but I stuck to my guns on it, and I don't know. I might eat crow. We'll see. But we'll see what Malik Willis looks like, because he's probably going to be the starting quarterback there next year. But we'll see how it happens. Shane, what are your thoughts on Burks?
So my face was not to you having him as wide receiver 1. My face was the fact that he's only rostered on 24.1% of ESPN leagues.
Would you start any Titans wide receiver?
Right now, no. No. But in a bye week pinch, and trusting the talent that I know is Treylon Burks, I'd start him once he's back. But so I kind of get Jay's point here of like going to get him now before he really blows up, because look, they put kid gloves on Malik last week and were just running the ball down the throats of, I can't even remember who the hell they were playing, but Derrick Henry had a Derrick Henry day.
Houston.
If it comes to the point where they're having to throw a little bit more and Willis is starting, I think this passing game could actually take a step up, because I think Willis has more of an arm talent than Tannehill.
I mean, just as far as like being able to throw the ball far, but I don't particularly trust Malik Willis as a thrower of the football, at least not yet. So we'll see. We'll see what he looks like next year after a full off season. He's got to do some work. He's got to put some work in, that's for sure. From what I saw in college, I was not a believer of Malik Willis personally. But let's move it on to Wandale Robinson. This is a guy that I love personally heading into the draft. A little undersized, but like I said at the time, what's the difference? He's 5'8". What's the difference if he was 5'9"? You know what I'm saying? Like people give like Hollywood Brown is 5'9". You give some guys a pass, but he's barely an inch shorter, and all of a sudden he's useless because he's too small. It's a little ridiculous. So I'm a big Wandale Robinson fan and truther. So I'm sure you are too, Jay. So I'll kick it to you because you're the resident Giants fan over here.
Yeah. Don't say Jets fan, please. But no, I'm with you. And and the main thing with this is, you look at the Giants roster, that wide receiver room is a jungle, boy. There is nothing there outside of Wandale Robinson. Kenny Golladay, I don't think he ever actually came to New York. I still think he's in Detroit. We have the same amount of touchdowns as Kenny Golladay in a Giants uniform.
Yeah.
And he's been there for almost 2 years now. Wandale Robinson, I did not like the draft pick when they made it, simply because he has a similar type of skill set to Kadarius Toney. Well, Kadarius Toney isn't there anymore. And this regime, honestly, I obviously wanted him on the team. I love what I'm seeing at a Brian Dable. I think that they're going to design plays for him as he's coming back from injury. He's going to get more and more involved. Now, he's not necessarily somebody who's got a super high ceiling for this year, especially the way that the offense looked this past week. I do like what I saw out of Daniel Jones so far this season, but I think they're going to come back down a little bit to earth as the season goes along. And this offense goes through Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the second, third, and fourth option. But if you're looking for somebody who, could get some pass catching work, is explosive, could take one of the house, Wandale Robinson, I think, is that guy. Darius Slayton is fine. He's a deep threat. He's a poor man's Deshaun Jackson, in my opinion. I think he's okay. He could break a long one, but he's not somebody who you're going to – go ahead.
Slayton will drop some easy ones. Now, he got shit on last year for dropping one, And they were like, oh, it was a perfect throw. And I was like, no, that was not as good a throw as you people are making this out to be.
And the rookie tight end, Daniel Bellinger, was starting to get involved in the passing game.
Yeah.
He now has a fractured orbital bone and might not come back this year. So that's just one less option in this Giants passing game. And Wandale is one of the last guys standing.
Yeah, like I said, he was one of the guys I was really, really high on going into the draft. I didn't think he would end up being a second-round pick, to be honest. I thought that,
Right.
I thought that 5'8" measurement at the combine would push him to the third, maybe even fourth round, especially being a small school guy, still SEC, but, being a small school guy. But he was fantastic in college, and I think it was the Citrus Bowl that they won. That was a phenomenal game, and he was excellent in that game, and that just really completely sold me on Wandale Robinson personally. So yeah, I'm a big believer, and I think this guy is definitely a rest of the season type of potential flex guy. Certainly as we go through bye weeks, he's a bye week flex start, I think, replacing one of your starters. Shane, you got anything to add on Wandale?
Not positively, so I'll leave it alone.
Let's
look. There's not many players that are shorter than Jay in the NFL, and I think Wandale is one of them. I love you, Jay.
That's fine.
Hey, who's about to start? Are you in the? Oh, that's right. I won the league. Just remember that.
You did.
You're the one that came up short. I made it short, but you came up short in the league last year.
I'm coming for you.
Don't involve me in these gripes. Let's move. Shane,
we're like brothers. I'm sorry.
I'll kick it to you for KJ Osborn here. He was on your list. Definitely a guy I like. KJ Osborn in the Vikings.
Yeah, so KJ Osborn is a guy that I think is starting to get more and more involved in the Vikings offense. He's had at least 5 targets, I think, in 4 out of the last 5 weeks or so. And he's caught touchdowns in 2 out of the last 6. So he's someone that, especially in a bye week pinch, I think you can start this week and feel decent about getting flex value out of him.
Does it scare you that just traded for TJ Hawkinson?
A little bit.
It's going to probably eat a little bit into what KJ does well, but I still think it's going to take.
You said deep waiver ads.
No,
the two guys I gave you were less than 5% owned on ESPN. That's deep, mother.
I like it. I was just about to throw you a bone and say, TJ Hawkinson is going to take a week or 2 to get acclimated, to learn the offense and get going. He might be, he might be a red zone guy, and I think that's what he probably will be this week against the Redskins. Sorry, geez, the Commanders.
You can't say that anymore.
I know. We're gonna get canceled. Sorry, Rick.
Canceled.
But no, KJ Osborn is still a guy that I think, between the 20s can definitely pick you up some catches in a PPR setting. Absolutely. Get you, maybe 4 catches, 40 yards. And if he stumbles into the end zone, then you're laughing. Yes. But Jay, what are your thoughts on KJ Osborn?
He's somebody that is more of a last ditch option for me. Justin Jefferson's the salt of the earth. He's one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. Adam Thielen is number 2 there. You got Alexander Madison, who's a capable backup to Dalvin Cook, who's also going to get involved in the passing game. I think that if you're going to start KJ Osborn, the time is starting to run a little low, because I do think TJ Hawkinson's going to be involved in this offense. Not yet, like you guys said, it's going to take some time for him to get acclimated to this offense, but they don't make a move like that to not get him involved in the offense and just to block or anything like that. So Irv Smith, it looks like he's got an injury that's going to put him out for weeks. KJ Osborn's fine. He's more of a dart throw play. You're hoping you get that touchdown, basically.
Let's finish it off here. Mecole Hardman, he's a guy that, again, 4 touchdowns in the past 2 games. And he's a guy that you only really need 1 play to be flex worthy and get you 16 points. If he catches a 50-yard touchdown, which happens all the time, then there you go. He's averages, 53% snap share, 3rd on the team. So he does play, half the snaps. He's only had less than 4 targets in only 2 of 7 games. So he is getting targeted, and he carries the ball here and there a little bit. So, he's a guy, like I said, that if you're in a pinch, 1 play can earn you a flex start. But we'll see what happens with Hardman against a weak Tennessee Titans secondary. Shane, what are your thoughts on Hardman?
I love him. I've been a fan of his for a while. A lot of people, I feel like, crap on him, and I've just kind of held on to him because he does have that game-breaking speed. So, especially this week, like if you're in a pinch, which again, whole premise of the show is like you're in a pinch because of bye weeks. Like I'm perfectly fine starting Mecole Hardman this week.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's not a route running technician.
No,
He's not polished in any sense of the position, but he can run really fast in a straight line. That's pretty good sometimes. Jay, any thoughts on Hardman?
Yeah, Mecole Hardman is the devil. Because he's the guy that every time you put in your lineup, he gets a big fat 0, and every time you put him on your bench, he gets 2 touchdowns on 4 catches, a rushing touchdown. While I love the talent, he's the ultimate dart throw. He's got that capability of having the big day, but he's just as likely to get a goose egg. So I think he's definitely somebody I'm interested in if I'm in a pinch, like we talked about. Throwing in as a flex play, but you have to be okay with that goose egg.
Yeah, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't on a guy like Hardman. That's always how it goes with a guy like that, but it is what it is. You gotta take your shots and hope that he kind of gets there. I think we're gonna skip the start sit thing, Shane, unless you really want to do it. I got a couple honorable mentions. Honorable mention for wide receiver Paris Campbell. I think he could be a guy if you're in a pinch. Romeo Dobbs. Looks like Lazard will be back.
The start sits. Sorry, we can tweet out the start sits.
We can tweet that out. Sounds good. And then one guy I want to throw out here as an honorable mention for running backs. I forgot to mention this guy. Number 2 guys, actually. Avery Williams, if and only if your league gives you kick and punt return yards. If it does, I'm in a league where I'm forced to start Avery Williams this week because I get punt and kick return yards. And if he does something on offense, that'll help. And then the other guy, Kenny Gainwell. I think Kenny Gainwell is a guy that you can certainly look at. He was like 9% owned on ESPN. 32nd ranked Houston defense against the run. I think that this is absolutely going to be a blowout. The Eagles are going to dog walk the Texans. And then, they might throw it to Kenny Gainwell there to, for the entire fourth quarter. So that's a guy that I think if you're in a real pinch, I think you can look to Kenny Gainwell, and you never know. So those are a couple honorable mentions I wanted to bring up. But let's get to questions. Appreciate everybody sticking around. If you're sticking around and you asked a question or you didn't, even if you're, we got 19 people watching right now, hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you would as well. And we'll get to your questions here and hopefully get you some good answers. I just wanted to show this one. This guy, I play in some deep leagues, but man, 53-man roster. That's insane. You must be starting nickel corners and free and strong safety.
Water boys, strength coaches.
Jeez. Yeah. Fullback.
The 3 of us
fullback.
On one team.
I play some deep leagues. I got a 32-team league. I got multiple 16-team leagues, but not with that deep of rosters. So that was pretty wild. Someone's here to make fun of you, Joey Wright.
Sounds about right.
That's the only reason he showed up, which is a good reason if you ask me.
Yeah, 100%.
Infinite possibilities. Is Ronnie Rivers worth a stash to 16-team deep league? Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, especially in that deep of a league. This Rams backfield has been a mess. Who knows if Cam Akers is going to come back? Darrell Henderson hasn't been able to stay healthy. Absolutely. I even think, in 14-team leagues, possibly 12-team leagues, if we don't know what's going to happen in this backfield.
Shane, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's in that deep of a league. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely in that deep. I don't I'd have to see more if I'm in a 12 team. I'd have to see a little more out of him up there, but maybe 14, 16 for sure. And just stash him and see if he's able to take over this backfield. I always like to do that, grab a piece, like Carolina. I went out and grabbed Chuba Hubbard, Deontay Foreman's there. Even Blackshear I grabbed last week when
another good deep league, especially if Chuba's out this week.
Well, he did absolutely nothing, but it's just good to grab a piece and see what happens. That's what I like to do on if I have a free roster spot. See if an injury happens. See if an unknown guy just grabs a share. So yeah, Ronnie Rivers definitely fits in that mold. That's for sure. Another one from possibilities. Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I drafted both of those guys too. I drafted some Sky Moore and Jalen Tolbert, so don't feel bad. I do still like Tolbert long term.
Draft Sky Moore. I told you people.
Yeah, I dodged a bullet on Sky Moore as well. Personally, it was Juju. I was pretty high on. That's starting to come to fruition, even though I was shitting on him a couple weeks ago. But MVS was actually the guy I liked on that team the most. Another question for infinite possibilities: are either the Giants tight ends Chris Merrick or Tanner Hudson worth a grab in that deep of a league? Absolutely.
Hudson's the play.
Hudson for me, yeah, as well. Giants fan, what do you think about the tight ends?
Hudson's the guy. If it wasn't this deep of a league, I would say don't really bother, especially with the passing volume. The Giants are one of two teams that are averaging more rushing yards than passing yards in a game. But I mean, in a 16-team, 53-man roster league, you're looking for anybody with a heartbeat that's on the field. So between those two guys, Tanner Hudson's the one. And you're just, hoping maybe he gets involved.
Yeah, Chris Myrick's more of a blocker type of a guy from what I've seen and from what a little bit I know about him. And Tanner Hudson had, 4 catches for 40-something or 50-something yards the other week, 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, he'd be the guy to take over. I was big on Bellinger, and that kind of hurt me, but it is what it is. Injuries happen. Russell Wilson is no longer the tribal chief. He's a tribal chief in his own head, man. That guy is lost it. He's honestly kind of lost it. I just wanted to touch on this one because the things that the self-talk that the mental gymnastics that he must do in his own head is just baffling to me. I just wanted to throw that out there. He's saying some ridiculous things, and his commercials are insane.
Commercials are awful.
Oh man,
cringiest thing I've ever seen.
He's really doing some poor things, making some poor decisions, in my opinion, right now. But either way, I'm a Jets fan. Zach Wilson is trash. Yeah, I've been saying that since day one about Zach Wilson. Who's the quarterback stash before he gets benched? Looks like Mike White. After Joe Flacco didn't play last week, he was inactive, and Mike White was the backup. Looked like he was going to come into the game for a bit there. Kind of wish he did come in, but unless anyone else has anything to offer, I think it's Mike White, correct?
Yeah, it's Mike White.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Flacco.
I would rather see Joe Flacco, but the Jets have shown their hand with moving Mike White up as the backup.
Yeah, that kind of just tells everything right there, right? So it kind of is what it is. A lot of questions from Infinite Possibilities. 12-team half PPR Dynasty League. I have 3 second-round picks, 4 third-round picks. What combination pace would you trade for Garrett Wilson? If I own Garrett Wilson, I'm probably not taking any of those picks for him unless all 3 seconds, maybe. And even then, I'm not taking it.
You've got to give a first to get Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Take a shot. If you can do it, if you can pull it
send
off.
all 7.
Right. Literally send all 7. That's the only thing I would consider.
Yeah, the way I always look at Dynasty, I play in a couple Dynasty leagues. This is obviously, we focus on redraft, but we all play a Dynasty, I'm sure. I always look for what can I get for the draft pick? Can I replace Garrett Wilson with any of those draft picks? And the answer is no, you cannot. So I'm not taking that trade ever, but you never know. Some people are always habitually, building for the future.
For draft picks.
Yeah, the old dynasty mentality where they just trade away their solid players for draft picks that, look at the NFL with the Rams. They're willing to trade. They're willing to trade 2 first-round picks for, who was it just recently?
From the Panthers.
Brian Burns, yeah. It's like they just really don't care because they're getting a player that's
their last first-round pick was Jared Goff.
Well, besides that, you might as well get a known commodity is what I'm saying. And that's what they do. You get a known commodity. I'm not going to get a Brian Burns with one of these first-round draft picks. So let me just get Brian Burns. But either way, let's move on here. Kelly Appleton, Standard League, so rare. Wide receiver start. I have DJ Moore and Lockett. Choose Mooney, Rondale Moore, Josh Palmer, running back, Taylor. Yeah, Patterson doesn't seem like he's going to play. We'll see. Start Hines, Pacheco, Gus Edwards. Holy moly. Yeah, you're in by Mageddon for sure.
Yeah. So I don't even know what the question is. Are we picking 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs, or
it looks like picking one? I'm thinking one of each. Is what I'm taking.
Well, choose between Mooney, Rondale Moore, or Josh Palmer.
Right.
I'm going Josh Palmer
I think I am too.
on that one personally.
If
Chicago has
Keenan
Miami,
Allen is
right?
if Keenan Allen is out, 100% Josh Palmer. Keenan Allen does wind up playing. I could see an argument for Rondale Moore with it being standard because he's more likely to be the guy to make a big play. Josh Palmer. A lot of what we like for him is the volume that he's going to see, and you don't get as much when you don't get the points from PPR. So I think if
you
Keenan's
could
out,
say that for Darnell Mooney too, though against Miami.
That's
the secondary's been pretty banged up, so. I think if Keenan Allen's not playing, I think Josh Palmer for sure because he's
100%.
the most likely to succeed, just period, and touchdown potential. But if you're looking for big play, Rondale or Mooney, either one realistically, they both have good matchups and they're both big plays waiting to happen. So you could go either way, but I think Josh Palmer would be the lean, especially if Keenan Allen's out. And then start who we starting here? Hines, Pacheco, and Gus Edwards.
I know I kind of poo-pooed him earlier, but between these three, I'm going Pacheco. Nyheim Hines, switching teams midweek. He's gonna still have to learn the playbook. I could see him potentially getting a touchdown if he gets a little bit of work, but it's not like he's going to be the goal line back. Josh Allen's the goal line back, and they put in Singletary before they put in Hines. Gus Edwards banged up. He tweaked his hamstring on Thursday night against the Buccaneers. He might not even play. So I think out of those three, you got to roll with Pacheco.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue that. I'm going to have to agree. Only because Gus Edwards, is a little banged up and he plays on Monday. That's the scary part about it. If he played on Sunday and he was active, and I know he's active, then I play Gus Edwards, especially if it's a morning game. But, it's really risky to sit those guys and then just, hang it on Gus Edwards on Monday night and then he doesn't play. And then what? So that's why I would lean Pacheco as well. I think you kind of just have to take what you can and what you know. YouTube, should I trade Najee for Patterson? Man, the start of the season, if anyone asked that, it's but look at it now. That's a legitimate question.
I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it either. Just because
I understand that it's a question. I get it, but
yeah,
I just don't think Patterson's gonna be able to stay healthy. Najee has looked a little bit better as of late since he's got that steel plate out of his cleat. So there's no way I could make that move.
Yeah, and realistically, you're still getting a solid 12-point floor out of Najee. The shitty thing is his ceiling is 13 points. But it's, if he falls into the end zone one of these weeks, he's going to push you up to 20 points. And I'm just not selling Najee for pennies on the dollar realistically. No. Shane, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Albert, good evening.
Albert, that's my guy.
We love Albert here.
Yeah, he's always in the chat. Good morning. Where are you at? Jeez. Marco S. Someone dropped Russell Wilson in my dynasty league. Should I pick him up after the bye? How many teams?
I think the answer is yes, no matter what.
I think you should pick him up before the bye.
I think it's yes, no matter what too. But if it's a 10 team, 1 QB,
I still think dynasty he's worth. Yeah, I still think he's worth picking up.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give it to you. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with picking up Russell Wilson either way too. But if it's a 10 team, 1 QB, and you have 2 solid quarterbacks, I don't know. I would leave him there personally, but
all in context. Most likely you should pick him up, but like you said, 10 team, 1 QB where you've got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, there's no need.
Yeah, exactly. What are you freaking out about, Shane?
Context matters, damn it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just good to be in a vacuum.
Whatever.
I traded those guys. I'm 7-1 now. My team is Mahomes. What do we think? I think
you've already
Mahomes,
wow.
Swift,
JT and CMC with the stack. KC with the bye out of the way for KC. DeAndre Hopkins back.
Andy Etienne on the bench. Pierce on the bench. I'm assuming. Lazard King, J-Rob, Juju. This is a solid squad.
Yeah, I would try to shoot for another stud wide receiver. I know Amari's been, batting above his pay grade lately, even though I hate Amari Cooper. I would look for a stud wide receiver if you could find one. If you could package Amari and Juju.
Yep.
Use the hype that Deshaun Watson's coming back. Amari looked good this past week. Package Amari and JT and try to get, a stud wide receiver. Because I'm concerned for this year what JT is going to look like with this high ankle sprain. I think
I
it's
don't
going to
hate
affect
that
him the rest of
either.
the season.
If you could do JT and Amari for
It has to be
Jamar
one of those elite
Chase.
guys. Right. That's a move to
know?
make, especially at 7-1.
Mhm.
If that you can afford to make that move and throw in Lazard and Juju until Chase comes back. You can plug ETN in for JT. Man, you'd be looking very, very solid.
And Pierce even.
Yeah. I mean, Justin Jefferson's been down a little bit. AJ Brown's right there. Tyreek. If you could do any of those guys for, pitch it like, hey, JT was consensus number 1 overall. That's what I'd look to do. You got a great squad, don't get me wrong, but I think you could make one move and get yourself a stud wide receiver, another stud wide receiver with D-Hop, and you'd be tough to beat.
Yeah.
Very tough to beat. North Carolina, we got some North Carolina fans. SOS, standard PPR, 10-man. Standard PPR? 1 point PPR, maybe? 10-man team.
10-man team, so PPR. Patty
man.
Adams. Wow.
Would y'all trade Adams for Higgins, Walker, Mostert, and Sanders? Yeah.
100%. I would do it for Higgins and Walker.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, with that team, you can easily cut Patterson, Rachaad White, Pacheco, and Hines and get instantly better.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. Go hit accept right now.
Love that. Team would be hard to beat like that.
Yeah. Is that Miles Sanders too? If that's Miles Sanders?
What I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Bernie Sanders, so it's got to be Miles.
She's supposed to say the Juju Schuster truther.
Yep. That's
hearing you say it, that's a lot funnier than just reading it.
Right? Schuster truther.
Schuster truther.
Kyle Singer. Hey guys, Ingram, Tanyan, Waller, pick one full PPR.
Oh.
Waller, I'm just not trusting this year.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to play football right this second. I'm not sure if he's going through some things personally, but also I think the contract situation's pissed him off a fair amount. And I think that there's some issues there with Darren Waller, so I'm taking him out personally.
I cannot. No, go Tanyan. They're playing Detroit. I think this is a get right game for Green Bay.
Yeah, you can. Go ahead, Jay.
I got to go Ingram. I mean, the volume that he's seeing at the tight end position, he's an every week start for me.
Look, you tried to sell him to me in our home league. I can't fault you for that one.
The past 4 games at the tight end position, 6 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets, 10 targets. If you don't have one of those elite guys at tight end, you cannot beat that volume.
Yeah, I'm going with Ingram too, only because I was ridiculously massive on him coming into the year, and I still am, and he has seen the volume. So I'll stick with Evan Ingram too, but I couldn't fault you for Tanyan. But I'm leaving out Waller personally, just because I think there's some other things. You
can't start him right now.
No, he might not play ever. He's kind of Mike Thomas type of situation, it seems like right this second. So
yeah.
What do we got here?
JL.
What's up, JL? My Swift and Murray Fields for Walker.
No.
QB is Carr. I mean, at this point, like with DeAndre Swift, he is barely on the field. That's just a fact. Like he in his what is he on his year 3, I think right now?
Yeah.
And he's barely been on the field. Like he misses just too many games for me to be comfortable with him. And I just love Kenny Walker. I love the way he's running the ball right now. I would not include the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
If you can't get Swift for Kenny Walker straight up, then I'd be like, sorry, man. Like I can't trade. You certainly can't trade Kyler Murray and Swift for Walker. That's way too much.
And Justin Fields has looked great. He's got a great schedule coming up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get rid of Fields either.
Yeah.
This is another one for me that context matters. If you are desperate for a win, if you need somebody that is going to play this week and likely next week, make the deal for Kenny Walker. If you're in a pretty good position, you've got somebody who you can play. If Swift misses another week, then I would not, because while he's had trouble staying on the field. When he is on the field, he's one of the handful of guys that is just elite. You know, he doesn't even need
plays. You have to start.
But Jamal Williams has been vulturing, and it's not going to stop. You know, it's really not going to stop, even when Swift comes back, even if he is at full health. You know, Jamal Williams is still going to eat. So
I've watched a lot of the games, and the touchdowns that he's vulturing are right after long runs from DeAndre Swift. So those are a missed tackle from being a long touchdown versus Jamal Williams punching it in from the two. I think Jamal Williams is locked in as a flex play RB2 when Swift is back. You know, he's definitely somebody you're starting with Swift out, but Swift for me is one of those few guys that if he's ever able to stay on the field, he has the talent, in my opinion, to be the RB1 overall, and he's somebody that I want on my team if I'm able to hang on to him. And I love Kenny Walker. This is not me talking bad about Kenny Walker. It's just I love Swift.
Shane, what are your thoughts? You would not trade Swift for Walker?
No.
All right, well, I'm in the minority. I would do it. I would do Swift for Walker straight up, but I'm not including those quarterbacks. I'd tell the guy to kick rocks. If Swift isn't enough to get Kenny Walker, then I don't know what to tell you, guy, but I think he should be, you know, like theoretically you're losing the trade trading Swift for Walker, but I just don't know if I can trust DeAndre Swift the rest of the season. And I really like Kenny Walker, even if they both are playing healthy and the way that they're playing. Personally, I do not think that DeAndre Swift has RB1 potential. I don't think there's that much of a drop off, even if I'm, quote fingers wrong over here. So that's why I make this trade. I think the comfortability of Kenny Walker playing every down, week in, week out, unless something catastrophic happens. But what are you going to do? You can't plan for that. But Swift getting chipped away at here and there and missing games, I don't know. It's frustrating. So I would do it, but I'm in the minority. So Fu Fui Yang. Start one, Garrett Wilson, Khalil Herbert, Dion Jackson.
I'm assuming that's Dion Jackson.
Or Palmer. Jets play
I'll
Buffalo.
rank these for you. For me, it's Palmer, Herbert, Jackson, Wilson.
I
not fault you for flipping Herbert and Jackson if JT does not play.
I mean, it's hard not to start Garrett Wilson. They're gonna
they're playing Buffalo though.
And Buffalo's really good, but they're gonna have to throw the ball because they're gonna get dog walked.
But
they're gonna get absolutely. I know. I was just absolutely ripping him to shreds 2 weeks ago, and I stand by every word I said. But he's gonna have to throw the ball, and he's gonna have to throw the ball to someone. Corey Davis doesn't look like he's gonna play. Elijah Moore's fallen out of favor completely. Conklin looks good, so Conklin might be a good start too. But I'm probably going to go with Garrett Wilson because he has the ceiling. Like the highest ceiling on this board, no question, is Garrett Wilson, correct?
No, I would say Palmer is highest ceiling.
It's
really
high ceiling's definitely Wilson.
Yeah, in my opinion. And
without a doubt, Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going Garrett Wilson here. I can see the argument. Really, the only argument for me is Garrett Wilson and Palmer. While I like Khalil Herbert, you can't start him over one of these other guys. That's going to see a ton of volume. Palmer, Justin Herbert hasn't looked good since he had that rib injury. He just has not looked the same. Granted, Garrett Wilson has Zach Wilson, the MILF hunter, throwing the ball to him, but I think that the talent of Garrett Wilson can overcome that.
Yeah, coming off a bye for the Chargers, for Justin Herbert getting healthy, hopefully Palmer's hopefully healthy. I'm ranking these Garrett Wilson, then Palmer, then Herbert, then Jackson personally. So I'm starting Garrett Wilson here. There's just the ceiling's too high, and they're going to have to throw the ball.
I will stay in the minority and go Josh Palmer here because they are playing Atlanta. and Wilson's playing Buffalo. Buffalo's defense is way too damn good for me to trust Zach Wilson to be able to get him the ball effectively.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We'll find out on Sunday. Which players I missed getting talked about. You're going to have to go back and replay the episode, as soon as it's over. It will be up on the Roto Heat
Deuce
channel.
McAllister and Corey Dillon.
Yeah. Jacob Miller jumped back in there and check out who the deep sleepers we're talking about. Would I play Kenny Gainwell over Brian Robinson, Henderson, or Alexander Madison?
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, you're gonna have to just play Henderson, right?
Yeah, Henderson's the play. I was excited for Brian Robinson. I love the story of him coming back, but he's just been a plotter. They've started to use Antonio Gibson more and more. Kenny Gainwell, I was very high on him coming into the season. I thought he was going to get some pass catching work, but they just haven't done it. And there's been rumors of them looking to go out and trade for a Kamara, trade for a running back to pair with Miles Sanders. So, yeah, I think Hendo's the guy.
Yeah, Kenny Gainwell was a guy that I did touch on earlier, Jacob, in the episode. He's a guy that I don't mind as a bye week replacement, deep start type of a guy. But I think if you have Henderson, you just got to hope that he gets the majority of the touches against Tampa Bay, who have looked a little bit, weaker against running backs lately, considering what they usually do to running backs. So I think that's what you got to do. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I think Henderson's I would even maybe venture to Madison, but I mean, you're looking flex value here probably. So I would go Henderson or Madison. I'm not touching Gainwell over any of these three guys, really.
Yeah, I don't mind Gainwell, but it's got to be more of a pinch than that, in my opinion. I made a trade tonight. Joey Wright, your boy, made a trade tonight and would love your thoughts. I sent D-Hop and Greg Dulcich to a tight end needy team for Dameon Pierce and Chris Olave.
Ooh.
I'm dealing with losses, Hall and Chase. I think that's best player in the trade's Nuke Hopkins. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
But you get more overall depth.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it
really
too.
A lot. And I think Olave's got some upside to be, one of the undisputed elite as well. I love it. I think it's, especially if this is Dynasty, slam dunk. If it's not Dynasty, if it's redraft, I still like the deal. It makes sense for your team.
I would assume this is redraft. If this is Dynasty, then you absolutely crushed it. Yeah. No question. But in redraft, it's still good. Like, the unfortunate thing is Nuke Hopkins is the best player in this trade, but you're getting deeper. I'd like to know your record and things like that and the rest of your team, but you are getting deeper. You're getting two starters
and
for
he's
one
actually
starter.
Got Everett. The next comment, he's got Everett to fill in for Dulcich. So Everett's been a tight end starter all year for me.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Like, realistically, I don't particularly care too much about Dulcich. Like, yeah, that he is a good piece, but I that doesn't really move the needle for me in this trade. But Nuke Hopkins for Dameon Pierce and Chris Olave, that's pretty even right there. So
yeah,
I think that's a good trade. Yeah. Chase Edmonds RB1. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe in Madden Ultimate Team, that's probably about the only option.
We'll see about that. Joshua Montgomery, you think Steelers bench Najee after bye and start playing Jay Warren? Not a chance.
No.
Not a chance. He's still Najee Harris, and realistically, like Jay mentioned earlier, that plate in his cleat, the list rank that he has, he's playing through a serious injury, and realistically, he probably should have just sat out for the first 5 weeks, of the season and just got right. So realistically, I think next year we're going to see Najee get back to being Najee, I think. So I'm going to be all over Najee Harris in next year's drafts and in best ball and everything like that, because he's going to come at a Saquon Barkley style discount. So I'm all over Najee Harris next year. But again, he should have sat out for the first few weeks of the season and got healthy. Yeah. But are they going to sit him? Not a chance. Not a chance. Jaylen Warren was still an undrafted rookie, right? So he's a bowling ball. He can be good. He's a good backup, but
yeah, he's a good change of pace back because of his explosiveness, but I don't think he can hold the load, especially with the Steelers offensive line right now. Like, Najee is 6'2", 235. Like, he can take a pounding.
That's something that people don't talk about enough. Like, Najee Harris is a big boy.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. Bigger, stronger, faster than most linebackers in the NFL. And, he's right close to Derrick Henry's stature. So I'm sticking with Najee Harris. And like I said, I'm going to be all over him next season. Would you trade Henderson for Pacheco?
Yes.
Yeah, Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we know what Henderson is at this point. I take the risk of the upside of Pacheco.
I don't hate it. I can be talked into it. I don't hate it either way. I totally agree. I think Henderson is borderline overrated at this point. He's just a guy. He's another guy. So Jaws, he's in the chat quite a bit. Was thinking to trade the 1/6 commish for his Mike Evans. Thibodeau drafted near the start of the third and second enough, kind of like offering 2 mid-seconds, try to sell it. You better put your salesman hat on. Mike Evans for Thibodeau in a second. I don't think that's enough.
I don't either.
I'm not an IDP guy, so I'm out of this one. This will have to be your guys.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough. That, like, you could throw the shot, like throw it out and see what happens. Maybe he's going to build to the future, take that second round pick.
Yeah. The only way you're going to have to sell the upside of Thibodeau and the decline of Mike Evans, because Evans is 28 at this point. Sell on that hard and see if you can pull it off. You may have to add, you're definitely going to.
Don't worry about offending nobody. Send trades, man. Trading's fun. Don't worry about it. The people who get offended are soft. That just is what it is. Drop Henderson or Hubbard to pick up a defensive stream so I don't have to drop Dallas D.
Sure.
In this case,
I would.
I'm usually I don't care about defense, but Dallas's D is pretty good.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if anybody, I would drop Chuba, but
I was actually going to go Henderson.
I'd do Henderson. Yeah,
I'd drop Chuba. I think D'Onta Foreman's going to get most of the work in this backfield, but I would rather hang on to both of those guys. Yes, Dallas D has been phenomenal, but the defense, the upside for defense is capped. If best case scenario for either one of Chuba or Darrell Henderson, could be very significant for your team. You can find a defense, even though Dallas is well above any of the other defenses right now from a fantasy perspective. There's always a defense out there. You can always play matchups. I would rather take the shot of having one of those guys who has a ceiling on my team.
I dropped.
Finally, we have Jay in the minority on one.
You're the minority on that one.
Now we've all been the minority on one.
There we go. Marco S12 Team 1 QB.
Like
go pick up Wilson. Got Dak and Wilson or Willis. Yeah, so Dak and Russell Wilson. Yeah, go pick up Wilson. He does need edge consideration for future. Maybe try to throw in a third too or something like that. I don't think that's even close to enough. I don't know if I'd be offended, but
I wouldn't be offended, but I would need more.
I'm not accepting a second and Thibodeau for Evans personally. Kelly Appleton, I could pick up Jeff Wilson. Would you do that instead of Pacheco? 100%. Yes. Would you drop Moore or Edwards or Pacheco? Moore. What Moore is that? Rondale Moore? Gotta be, maybe.
Yeah, that's the only one that would make sense to even consider dropping there.
Jeff Wilson, Edwards, or Pacheco. Yeah, I would drop Pacheco for Edwards or for Jeff Wilson. I'd drop probably Edwards for Jeff Wilson, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I really like the upside of Jeff Wilson.
Yeah. Let's do that. Marco S. Who should I start next week? Pitts or Hawkinson, half PPR? I think you got to ride or die with Pitts, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially this weekend.
Both. Put one in your flex. Why the hell not?
Well, I'd just be worried about Hawkinson getting too much in his first week,
exactly.
with the Vikings. So
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my only concern about starting him in a flex. But you got to kind of ride or die with Pitts, I think, is just what you got to do these days. Should I hold on to Josh Reynolds in half
No.
PPR dynasty?
Unless
you need him
extremely deep. No.
Yeah, unless you really, really need to play him at some point, and
I'd drop him for a half-eaten ham sandwich.
There you go.
Ew.
Tony Herbert, Henderson, or Chuba this week in PPR.
Going Herbert.
Herbert? Yeah.
I'll make a case for Tony, but I agree on Herbert. I won't even, well, not necessarily make a case. Tony would be the only
one. You're not about to die on that hill, that's for sure.
No.
So
if you're like a huge underdog and you need like your team to just completely go off,
sure,
then I take the risk on Tony. But if you need the safe production, it's still pretty high upside with Herbert.
Yeah,
but Tony's got that. It's not likely, but with like you said, Andy Reid coming off a bye, shiny new toy. You never know. Tony could go nuclear.
You never know, but I'm taking
17 carries and 34 catches for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, one of those games, eh? Ronnie Daniel, what's good, fellas? Made a trade tonight, Pittman for Devontae Smith. Thoughts on it? What did Pittman do last week? Does anyone know off the top of their head with Ellinger?
Not much.
I like
the
move,
a hot
honestly.
second. I'll find it.
I still like the trade because I'm just a believer in Pittman. I'm a big believer in his ability. 12.3 points, 9 targets, 7 catches, 53. Yeah, I like that. I like Pittman over Smith.
It's meh to me. It's kind of lateral, I think.
Yeah,
relatively, it's close.
It's a little lateral, but I like it. Yeah. I like it. Jaws, Mike Evans is 29. Yeah, but he's still one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL.
Mr. 1000.
Yes, I'm not sure what that means. Drop Marquise Goodwin for Ronnie Rivers in Dynasty.
Yeah, might as well. If you're hurting for running back, I don't hate it.
Yeah, you're never going to start Goodwin anyways, so take a swing. Take a swing. That's it. That's all the questions. Plowed through it. That was good. Jay, thanks for coming on, man. It was good to meet you.
Absolutely. Yeah, good to meet you, Shane. I know I give you a lot of crap, but I love you. You know that. I appreciate you guys having me. And for my guy, Joey, who's been watching with me tonight, goodbye.
Yeah.
Good night and goodbye.
Everybody's still watching. Throw a like if you got 10, not even like 2-3 seconds to spare. In the time that I babbled that out, you could have hit the like button. Hit that subscribe button as well while you're there. We'll pitch the Discord above Shane's head over there. Other side. Yeah, join us in there. If you want to hit us up, just at me or Shane. Make sure that we see it because there's a lot. It is pretty active. There's a lot going on. It's hard to pay attention. So just at me and I'll get back to you. Hit us up on Twitter. Jay, reiterate where you are, where you're from, and where the people can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at GManJ. I'm a part of the team over at Front Yard Fantasy. Best way you can find our stuff, check out the YouTube channel, Front Yard Fantasy, and make sure you hop in our Discord as well.
Shane, you got anything for the people?
Nope. Just follow me on Twitter at FFShaneB. And if you missed the show live, it will come out as a podcast likely tomorrow or Thursday.
There we go. Appreciate it, guys. Like I said, like and subscribe on the way out, and we'll see you.